In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the intake gaskets on this GMC Acadia. Let's get into it. Disconnect the connector for the mass airflow sensor. Just slide this little lock tab back and then push down on the tab. That slides out. You take a straight blade screwdriver, loosen up this worm clamp here. And grab the snorkel. You can slide that off. Now with a trim tool, there's a little wire retainer right here. Just slide under there and pop that off. Just like that. Slide that out of the way. And just grab the air box. And there's just grommets holding it in. You just want to pull up. And you can slide it right out. You can see where the grommets are that hold that in. I'm going to take that bolt out, use a 10mm socket. That's just going to stay attached there, that's fine. And now loosen up this worm clamp. Let's slide this hose off. And take this worm clamp off. Same, either a straight blade screwdriver or 8mm socket. Loosen that up. Grab this cover. You want to just pop it up. There's just grommets in the back holding it on. There's another hose right here. Just pop that off. Push that retainer up. And then rock this out of the way. Slide it right off the throttle body. Now disconnect the connectors. Just slide this little lock tab back. You can use a pick and slide that off. There's a connector right here. Just slide this lock tab back and then push down. Slide that off. Right here as well, same. And just remove the wiring harness, just use the trim tool. Just get underneath this little clip. It slides right out. Disconnect this hose, just push down on the tab and slide it off. And then there's a retainer right here. You can push in on that. Right there, there's a little lock. And now I'll slide out of the way. This coolant hose on the back side needs to be removed. Just use a 10mm socket. Take those two bolts out. One right there. And one right here. And you can just move that out of the way a little bit. In front of the throttle body, there's a bolt holding the bracket down right here. Just take that bolt out. Use a 10mm socket. And that bolt is caged, so it's just going to stay right there. One more clip for the harness. Just pop that off with a trim tool. Right there. Push that out of the way. Now we need to remove the intake bolts. Use a 13mm socket. Loosen these up. And they're in here as well. There's a total of 8 of them. 4 on this side and 4 on the other side. just pull the intake right off. Disconnect the battery. We're going to use a 10mm socket, loosen up the nut for the clamp. Slide the negative terminal off. There we go. You can disconnect the positive side as well. It's the same 10mm socket. Loosen up the nut. You can just pop this cover off. There's a little tab here and a tab there. Slide that up. There's a couple wires that go to the back side of this. This whole panel should lift up, but those are preventing us from doing that. So we'll disconnect those nuts, all 4 of those. Use 10mm socket for these 2. And those slide up and out. And there is slots on these, so you shouldn't mix them up. There's little tabs. And then these 2. And these are 13mm sockets. And grab the panel. And just slide it up. It's just stuck on the battery. We'll just tip this out of the way. Remove this bracket, use a 10mm socket. Remove that nut and this bolt. There is a wire that's attached right there. You can use a trim tool, slide under that wire. Just pull that off. Over here, I'm just going to slide the computer up. Then you can slide that bracket out. In front of the battery, there is a hold down right there. You want to take that bolt out. Use a 13mm socket. And that's what the hold down looks like. Just take that out. Now just grab the battery. If you have handles, you can use those. And you want to slide it out. And we're going to disconnect the connectors for the PCM. Just use a pick and just slide these little lock tabs like that. And then we're going to push down right here, and there's a little ratchet or lever. As you push that down, you should be able to release the lever. And it just slides like that. So just push down right there. Do the same for the other ones. Slide those out of the way. Now this hose right here, slide this off. And you want to slide the computer up. There is a couple of clips right here and right here. Get under there, slide that up and out of the way. We're going to remove this battery tray and housing, and there's all sorts of wires that are connected to it. Just use a trim tool. Just disconnect all the wires over in front of it. wire down below. And over here. That's all of them except for that one. And using a 13mm socket, take all these bolts out. And grab the tray, move it out. And grab the tray and slide it out. Now where the intake gasket's gonna go, just take a rag, some brake parts cleaner, and just wipe it. Try not to get any of the sand to fall into any of the intake runners. Wipe it down. You could put rags down in there if you want, or just be careful. And just wipe those down good. Now tip the intake on its side and take these gaskets off. Just use a pick. Get behind them, slide those off. And just a little brake parts cleaner and a rag, and just wipe down any dirt and debris. Take the new gaskets, line them up, push them in. They are curved on one side, so you want to slide them into the slots accordingly. Now take the battery tray, line it up, make sure the wires are out of the way. And take the bolts, get those started. You can kind of see where the bolts were screwed down before. I'm going to get that as close as possible. Now tighten these down. And snug them up. Now take the computer and slide it in. Right in place. You can slide that hose in position. It's important that you plug these in before you hook the battery up. And you can see the color of the connectors, and just connect those to the proper color on the computer. Lock it down in place, and then push down on that lock tab. Lock it down. And this rod was supposed to go through there, so if you didn't slide that in place, just slide the computer up a little bit, slide it back down. Now slide the battery in place. Fit all the way back. Now take the battery hold down, slide that in, and get it started. Snug it down. Battery's in there tight. Now slide this, the positive side, in place. And we'll tighten this down. Use a 10mm socket. Just snug it, make sure it's tight. Now open this door. And slide all these connectors in place. They only go in one spot. If they don't fit, then you're probably putting them in the wrong spot. And snug those down. Once those are all tight, you can close this. Then you can connect the negative and snug this down. And any of the wire retainers, you want to push those in. Resecure those. There's one down here. That was a little tricky to get to earlier. Slide that in place. And any of the, we're on the back side as well. That looks good. To get this bracket on here, the computer is in the way, so we're going to have to lift up the computer again. You can just use a pick underneath these little clips. Just slide it up a little bit. Then you can take the bracket and slide it in position. And slide the computer back down. That works there. That's all lined up. And put the bolts in right here. And the nut. Tighten those down. You have another wire clip right here. Slide that in position, just like that. Now just make sure everything's clear, out of the way, and take the intake. And just slide it down into position. Give it a wiggle. And get all the bolts started before you tighten them down. Now start tightening these down. You want to work your way from the center middle and just alternate and work your way out. Now I'm going to torque those bolts to 18 foot-pounds. Again, working from the center, alternating, and working your way up. And just go around again, double check. And we'll just tighten this bolt down. Just make sure it's snug. It's good. Connect this hose that goes to the purge valve. Lock that in place. Push that into that retainer right there. And line the wires up. Push that on, lock it down, push this one on, lock it down, and then the retainer that goes in place. Now I'll plug in the throttle body, lock it down. There's a little retainer right there, just push that down. Now I'll put the air box in. You want to line this up down below. There's a little intake tube that comes in. And press it down on all the grommets. Now we need to re-secure this hose, use the bolts, get those started. And tighten them down. Now line the snorkel up. Slide it over the airbox. Over the throttle body. Push this part down onto the grommets, and you can hook up these hoses. Hook this hose up in the back, and we'll tighten all those worm clamps down. Just snug those down. Snug those down. And tighten this bolt. And connect the connector. Lock it down, and then the little retainer, you want to push that down. Right there.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.